Hey everybody, it is Dak here from the Ed Boys, and welcome to my Get Rich with Magic guide. The goal of this Poor to Rich guide is to teach you about some skilling magic money-making methods that can be used anywhere from a low magic level with very little starting cash, or even a high magic level if you have some money to work with too. I did say skilling magic moneymakers. There's not going to be any combat moneymakers in here. There are bosses that are weak to magic and you can profit very well on, but this is going to be a skilling money-making guide. Magic is a very helpful skill for a few reasons. Higher magic can be very good for combat, like I was saying, but there's also a lot of other moneymakers in the game that aren't magic related, but having a high magic level can access very useful spells and speed up those moneymakers. Even just having access to a lot of teleports is super convenient, and magic can do that for you. A lot of really good magic training methods tend to cost GP to use to get that fast XP rather than making any money. I am an advocate for spending money to get faster levels, then making up for it later, but you have to have that money to be able to spend it in the first place, so it's also very convenient to get magic XP and be turning a profit at the same time. These skilling money-making methods are not going to peak at the same profit an hour as some of my other get rich with skilling videos like thieving and rune crafting, but they are still viable money makers while training magic. In this guide, I'm going to start with getting your first few magic levels and getting a little bit of starting cash if you're starting completely from scratch. Then we'll go over some magic money makers from lower to higher level, giving you a few options on what you want to do for making money with magic, and then I'm going to put all those methods together in more of a step-by-step plan on how I would make money with magic. The first money-making method we'll talk about requires 7 magic, so if you're starting out just at 1, you can complete the Imp Catcher quest for 875 Mage XP, which will jump you to 8 magic. All you need to do for Imp Catcher is get a white, yellow, black, and red bead from either killing imps or just buying them on the Grand Exchange. Also, when starting with magic, you're going to want a little bit of money. To buy a lot of runes at once, you're going to want a lot of cash, but you can get started with this guide with as little as 10k. So the 10k from the Security Stronghold is really not a bad place to get started. You might want even more money to get started with, since it's a bit tedious to continuously buy and sell on the Grand Exchange, so if that is the case, there's a couple of easy options right at the gate. You can complete the Dwarf Cannon quest, giving you 7 crafting, and then go buy a ring mold and some gold bars, make your way to the Edgeville Furnace, and just make some gold rings. You could also put everything away in the bank other than a knife or a sword to cut some webs, make your way out to the Deep Wilderness, and pick up some steel plate bodies. One inventory of steel plate bodies should net you about 25k on the Grand Exchange. Even getting started on your mining gains, you can make your way up to 30 mining and hanging out at the Motherlode Mine. You can make some progress towards your coal bag, bank some ores there, and then that could be making progress towards the Blast Furnace, which is a really solid moneymaker. Like I said, though, you can start with as little as 10k from the Security Stronghold, and the more money you have to work with, the less often you'll have to buy and sell on the Grand Exchange. Let's go ahead and jump into the magic money-making methods, though. At 7 magic, you can enchant sapphire rings into rings of recoil. Rings of recoil are used for a few combat situations. Mainly fighting Zulrah uses a lot of rings, so it's not very hard to sell a lot of them at once. You do need 1 water rune and 1 cosmic per level 1 enchant, so you could just buy a staff of water for the water runes, and then your cost is just 1 sapphire ring and 1 cosmic rune per ring of recoil. You could use the spell on each and every ring, manually casting them to get a lot of them done per hour, and you could also use inventory tags to tag the rings of recoil if you can't tell the difference of them very easily. You also can just cast the spell 1 time, and then your character will auto-cast the full inventory very slowly. The auto-cast is a little bit less than half the speed of manually casting, but it is nice to have an AFK option to give yourself a break for a few inventories if you need it. You can make 1500 to 1600 rings of recoil an hour while manually casting, and more like 700 to 800 while auto-casting. When making this video, the profit per ring is about 135 GP, so that's 95k to 215k GP an hour profit depending on your speed. This is also 12k to 28k magic XP an hour, which is pretty quick for these early levels. At 25 magic, you unlock your first teleport spell, and you can use that to make teleport tablets. Teleport tablets can be made just to teleport somewhere without needing the spell, so people tend to buy a lot of them all the time. Teleport tablets can be made at a lectern in a player-owned home, so you could use somebody else's lectern, like getting started at World 330 and going to a house party, but it is highly suggested to make your own so that you can benefit from having a butler bringing soft clay to you, but this does add a construction requirement. You need 40 construction to make an oak lectern where you can start making Varrock teleports. It's an extra investment, and it means you may not have the cash to start on teleport tabs right after enchanting sapphire rings, depending on how much cash you had. Similar to magic, though, having a high construction level can be very beneficial. So those construction levels are good investments overall, and 40 really shouldn't be that expensive. Making teleport tablets does require soft clay and the runes to use that teleport imbuing the clay. The process is fairly AFK, making it nice for multitasking. Varrock tablets are not the only teleport that you can make money with. They're just the first example here. Other teleport tabs require higher level lecterns in your player-owned home. The Eagle lectern tends to be for teleport tabs, and the Demon lecterns tend to be for enchant enchantment tabs. The teleport tabs are often the way to go for profit, but it is worth mentioning that Bones to Peaches tabs do sell very well. You do need to unlock Bones to Peaches from the Mage Training Arena before you can make them into tabs. House teleport tabs, Varrock Tele Tabs, and Lumbridge Tele Tabs are currently over 100 GP per tablet at the moment, and you can manage around 1,300 tablets an hour, which is still pushing 200k GP an hour for the better tabs currently. The benefits of doing Tele Tabs over Sapphire Rings is that it's a lot less click intensive, and you're going to get more Magic XP. Even just the Varrock Tabs is giving you 45k or so Magic XP an hour, and that's a little bit better for leveling up Magic once you get to those mid levels, so, and it's only slightly less profitable than Sapphire Rings, and that's if you're doing like the max speed Sapphire Rings, which is very click intensive. At 33 Magic, you can use Telekinetic Grab. This spell can be used to pick up items that are out of reach. A popular low-level moneymaker with Telekinetic Grab is to collect Wines of Zamorak at the Chaos Temple north of Falador. You do want to wear Zammy robes and have 500 plus total levels so that you have access to the top floor of this temple and you can grab both wines. This moneymaker does max out at pretty low GP an hour, lower than those Sapphire Rings, but I specifically wanted to give it a shout out because it's also a free-to-play money-making method. It is pretty slow cash and generally packed in free-to-play worlds, but that is the case for a lot of free-to-play money making. At 55 Magic, you can unlock high-level alchemy. High Alching turns items into coins, and in some cases you can profit off of that since the High Alch value is higher than the GE price. Some easy examples are rune items. Rune items are very often sold just under the Alch price, making them very profitable after you take the nature rune into factor even. It requires a large cash stack to get a lot of rune items. Plenty of other items are solid to Alch, like Addy and Mithril items. Even like steel plate bodies are very good. Yew longbows and maple longbows are very easy to buy in bulk, and they do Alch for a profit. Even other grinds can benefit from having a high alch. If you make dragon bodies or battle stabs, let's say, while getting some crafting XP, you could then alch all of those battle stabs or those dragon bodies and get some bonus mage XP on the end of it. Alching can be done while doing agility laps too, which is a bit click intensive, but it adds a little bit of profit and magic XP to the agility grind. So overall, a lot of the benefits of high alching is just like another utility spell that is very important. You can manage about 1,150 alchs an hour while just bank standing and clicking on that one spot. Exactly how much you're going to make per alch does depend on what you're alching, of course, but a lot of mithril, adamant, and rune items can get you 200 to 300 coins per alch pretty easily. This is like 230k to 350k GP an hour. It's still not peaking very high, but only 55 magic is a low requirement, and you would be getting almost 75k magic XP an hour while doing this, which is a solid pace for getting yourself to even higher magic levels. At 57 Magic, you can charge unpowered orbs into water orbs at the Water Obelisk. Charging any orbs, water, earth, air, or fire, is a solid moneymaker, and it gives decent mage XP. For water orbs to be a viable method, you do want at least 70 agility, preferably 80 for the good shortcut to the obelisk. This added agility requirement is pretty heavy, and unfortunately, it's the same requirement if you want to make fire orbs too, since the fire obelisk is right by the water one. Air orbs and earth orbs do not have that agility requirement, but they do take you into low-level wilderness, which means you can get PK'd, which makes it a little bit less stable. When charging orbs, you can auto-cast it, or you can manually cast it, just like you could with Enchanting Sapphire Rings. With the best teleports for each location, I find that 500 to 550 orbs an hour is doable while auto-casting, and then you can push around 750 orbs an hour if you go hard with the manual cast. It's not a lot faster since there's still a lot of travel time and whatnot, but still an extra like 200 plus orbs an hour is pretty solid. I do really like the AFK option on making orbs though, so I very often just auto-cast. Water orbs can be started at the lowest level, and I have found that fire orbs are the most consistent for magic money making gains, so I do suggest throwing down some agility laps to be able to work out that requirement. With the 4 different options for making orbs, you can try a few of them out and just see which one you like the best. Making orbs does not peak at a lot of XP, anywhere from 30k to 50k XP an hour, but that's really not that bad for knocking out some magic levels and making a good profit. Currently, water orbs are 880 coins per orb, so that's 440k to 660k GP profit per hour. It's a little bit better than some of the previous moneymakers we've been working on, and it can be fairly AFK. At 68 Magic, you can use the Humdify spell. This spell is on the Lunar Spellbook, so you do have to complete the Lunar Diplomacy quest to use it, and you also need to complete Dream Mentor to be able to use this spell. A couple of extra quest requirements are something to be expected as you get to higher level moneymakers. The Humidify is mostly used to fill containers, like vials and whatnot, but can also be used to turn clay into soft clay. There's about a 33 coin difference from clay to soft clay at the moment, and you can set up for 27 clay per envy, especially with the help of a rune pouch or a steam battle staff. The one spell with with a full Envy, you're using 1 Astral Rune for 27 soft clay, so you really make right about 30 coins per soft clay. It's not that much, but you can do a ton of soft clay per hour since it's 1 spell per full inventory. You can manage 20,000 to 22,000 clay an hour at max pace, which is currently 600k to 640k GP an hour. This is similar profit to the Orbs at the moment, but it does not take a very big gap in price from clay to soft clay for this to be a lot more money. You can buy only 13,000 clay every 4 hours in the GE, so when you take that limit into consideration and the fact that buying low and selling high makes a very big difference here, it's a little bit better to be buying and selling overnight. This method is very click intensive, but that is often the case if you want more GP an hour. Next, we have a method that can make it into the Get Rich with Crafting video. The Super Glass Make spell is on the Lunar Spellbook, so you do need Lunar Diplomacy. You do not need to do Dream Mentor for this one, though. Super Glass Make can turn seaweed and buckets of sand into molten glass. Using giant seaweed, you can use a ratio of 6 buckets to every 1 giant seaweed, which averages 1.6 molten glass per bucket of sand. You don't get the same amount of molten glass every time, but it is going to average out pretty quickly as you make a lot of it. The process that I go for here is to click 3 seaweed, 1 at a time, and then right-click, grab 18 buckets of sand, which is my Withdraw X option, then use the spell, bank the molten glass, and repeat. This will make some molten glass appear on the ground, which you'll then need to pick up, but only every few inventories do you have to bother with that. You can take less seaweed and buckets per inventory so that you don't overflow, but that means you're going to have to use more spells and runes to get through all of those buckets and seaweed in the long run. So for making money, I prefer 3 seaweed and 18 buckets. You can make a little bit over 15,000 molten glass per hour. Anywhere from 12k to 15k is reasonable since it's very click intensive. The GP per molten glass is a little bit fickle, but it currently lands right about 32 GP per glass. This would be 380k to 480k GP profit an hour. It's not as much as the previous methods, but you also get 45k magic XP an hour and a little over 100k crafting XP an hour, which is really nice. Again, it's very click intensive, but that's a lot of gains to be made with this money-making method. The next moneymaker that we'll be featuring here is on the Lunar Spellbook, and it does require Dream Mentor to use. Tan leather can tan up to 5 cow hides or dragon hides into leather per spell, so 1,000 spells would get you through 5,000 hides. You can crank through a lot of hides per hour, so tanning dragon hides is very profitable. Each type of dragon hide, green, blue, red, and black, will turn a good profit, generally being very similar, but it is always worth checking the profit here before you buy. It's the same runes no matter what dragon hide, so the profit is purely based on the difference between the dragon hide and the dragon leather. It is worth noting that green dragon hide is a lot cheaper than black dragon hide, so it doesn't require as much money on your end to buy a lot of them. You can tan up to 8,000 hides per hour at max pace, but maybe a little bit lower if you're not cruising since it is click intensive. I recently done a lot of tanning leather on mobile, which was a little bit slower, but still it was a ton of hides per hour. You can only buy up to 13,000 dragon hides every 4 hours in the Grand Exchange though, so you have to either buy a lot of them overnight or buy multiple types of hides. Dragon hides are really not that cheap, so it requires a lot of cash to stack up on a lot of hides, but even having to sell and buy every like 30 minutes to an hour, it doesn't slow you down that much. You'll make a lot of profit here. It's also a lot of XP per spell, so this is over 100k magic XP an hour too, being easily the best ratio we have here for GP and XP per hour. The final skilling magic money-making method that we'll be talking about is making Barrows Tele Tabs. We did bring up making Tele Tabs before, but to make a teleport tablet from the Arceus spellbook is a different process. You need to mine Dark Essence like you would do while doing Zaya rune crafting, then take them down to a building south of the library to use their lectern to make them into tabs. 83 magic is required to use this spell, and you'll need 100% Arceus favorites to make the Dark Essence blocks. It's also highly suggested to have the Cardist's Memoirs or the Book of the Dead to teleport to the center of Arceus with a dark disposition. Also, having a good fairy ring teleport, like a ring in your home or the quest cape to the Legends Guild, can save you a lot of travel time, and it's also suggested to have 73 agility to be able to use the shortcuts. As you can see, there's a lot of other requirements for making Barrows Tabs at a solid pace, but there are always the other money-making options if it's too many requirements for you. Making Barrows Tele Tabs is pretty AFK. You can make about 25 per trip, and you can max out at 12 trips an hour for 300 tablets an hour. This is the same as using a Barrows teleport 300 times an hour, which is pretty slow, so you only get like 25k magic XP an hour. The Barrows teleport tabs are 3.8k a piece at the moment, and it costs about 900 GP per teleport to make, so it's somewhere from 800k to 850k GP an hour at max pace, and it's pretty solid for AFK gains. Finally, let's break this down into more of a step-by-step plan. From level 1 magic, I would knock out the Imp Catcher quest to jump to level 8 magic. From there, you can use level level 1 enchant to turn sapphire rings into rings of recoil. At level 25, you do kind of have a decision to make. If you have 40 construction, then you should set up your oak lectern and start making Barrows Tabs. If you have not invested in construction yet, you can stick to sapphire rings for a little bit, but you've also found a good place to invest your money in now that you've made some cash from these magic money makers. I would take Varrock Tele Tabs all the way to charging water orbs at 57 magic next, but that also adds the agility requirement for those shortcuts in the Taverley dungeon. If you don't have the agility requirement, then you could push to 60 magic for earth orbs and do earths until 66 magic, where you can change to air orbs for a little bit more profit. Either way, I am a fan of charging orbs for magic money making at these levels, so pick the orb that you like the best and make a bunch of those. At 68 magic, you can start using Humdify, which can peak at a lot of GP an hour. It's a good idea to buy a bunch of clay overnight or even over a couple of days to stack up on a bunch of it first, but if the process is too much of a pain for you, you could just stick to charging orbs for a bit. At 77, you could do super glass make for the bonus crafting XP, but for the best cash, you should just push to 78 magic and start doing tan leather. Tan leather can add up to 1.5 mil GP an hour currently, which is very solid cash while getting good mage XP. And at 83 mage, you could make some Barrows teleports if you want more AFK gains, but tan leather is going to be your best bet for some skilling magic money making. That is about all I wanted to say for magic money making, everybody. If you have any questions about this Porter-Rich money making guide, then be sure to let me know in the comments section below, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you very much for watching the guide, everyone. If you enjoyed the video or you just got some useful information, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. I do stream on Twitch, which should be linked on the screen and in the description. I am also on Twitter and have a Discord, which are linked in the description. Thanks again for watching, everyone, and best of luck on your magic money making grinds.